So in this video, I'd like to cover the scary level of power that has been displayed by the media in 2020 and how they were more powerful than even the amendment rights of us Americans, right? We'll start off with the fact that they took our First, our Fourth, and our Eighth Amendment rights and how it doesn't really make any sense what they did with that. And so what happened with the First Amendment rights, our freedom of speech? Saying the wrong thing would be classified as misinformation, and that would get you deplatformed. That would get you labeled. That would cause you even to lose your job in a lot of cases, to be scrutinized by people. The freedom of assembly, which is also covered under the first right, that was removed instantaneously, and there were a lot of medical professionals who did not agree with this, although I'm not going to get into that here. They also took away our right to petition the government, because without the right to have freedom of speech, what are you to do? Run up and yell at the building, but then you're not allowed to be outside at certain times. So then what happened now with the Fourth Amendment right? The Fourth Amendment right stops them from being able to seize your property, right? And so now if you're running a business, right, like let's say you operate and own a restaurant and you're selling alcohol. Now when they enact this policy, right, not a law, policy, that says you can't run your business saying that you're essential and you're not, if you decided that you were going to continue to run your business because it's supposed to be a free country, they would take your liquor license. That's the seizure of your property because of a policy that was enacted by media representative, this is representative government. And what's even scarier is that the decision as to who and what was made essential was never something that we were able to vote on, even though it would have been a representative and indirect vote. We just woke up one morning and we were told by our media, you're important, you get to work. You don't get to work. And what's scarier about that is that none of it made any sense. They told us that the older generation are the ones at risk, and that the younger generation is the one at risk, and that we need to isolate. So now consider what happened with Walmart. Walmart is a massive industry, right? 24 hours a day is when they were running forever, as long as I've known, up until 2020. Now understand that if you want people to separate and stay apart from each other, why wouldn't you leave Walmart 24 hours? This would allow anyone who has an illness or anyone who's older or anyone who's just concerned for their own safety to show up at odd hours. They could show up at 3, 4 in the morning, bulk buy the things that they need to buy, and then retreat to their home. Instead, making it that way Walmart was only a limited amount of time open forces a larger group of people to shop during a narrow window and during more like high public times, right? So like instead of being able to come in at 3 in the morning, they have to come in during like shopping time. It doesn't make any sense. And then to close a restaurant, if you've looked around at a restaurant, if you've ever worked at one, you understand it's a very fast-paced environment. There's never going to be a really old server who's not in great shape. It's generally very young people, college students generally, who are running around with trays, and you get to sit in an isolated booth with your family or whoever. The idea that the younger generation or that restaurants should close meant that the younger generation who has no saved assets, they have no saved money because they just left home for college, working this cash job where you literally will work and get money at the end of the day so you can take that money and go and pay rent, no longer have an opportunity. The older generation, who are generally supposed to be getting securities, who are generally supposed to have some sort of saved assets, are the ones that generally work cash registers at a lot of these grocery stores. And like we said, they're forced to work during a narrow window now because they closed Walmart for the first time in history. Why do they do this? Because it's the media that was running things. It wasn't anyone with any sort of education that cared about the community so much as it was about people creating fear. Fear so that way they could have power. Without fear, they'd have no power. And so now we're going to get to the Eighth Amendment right, cruel and unusual punishment. At the very least, it's unusual punishment to tell people that they need to isolate, to tell people that they can't assemble for no reason. This is going to take away our birthday parties. They took away our concerts. They took away our Christmases. They took away our Thanksgivings because most families get together. Most people like to get together for these occasions. Now, even if they decided to get together, which they were told that they should not do, right? Because there's no parks, there was no anywhere to do these things. They were nervous. I remember personally, when I came back to Thanksgiving, it was outside and it was isolated. People stayed away from each other. It was heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see how much the media was capable of controlling our understanding of what was going on and controlling people's fear so much so that we basically lost we're no longer American. This is no longer the free America. We didn't get to decide who and what was essential. We lost our First Amendment right, which was the first for a reason. That's probably the most important, the best one. And then we were punished for like cruel and unusual punishment. whether or not, whatever your opinion is on the whole COVID situation, whatever your situation is, it doesn't take away the fact that we lost our First, Fourth, and Eighth Amendment rights. Please ask questions. Please like and subscribe. If you have any contrary opinions, go ahead and post them in the comments, and I'll respond to them if if they're not just emotionally based, if they actually make some sort of sense, something that I can respond to. Have a good day.